Okay, stop everything you are doing right now because what I am about to tell you is going to absolutely terrify you. Two of the most dangerous volcanoes on planet Earth have just connected underground, and scientists are losing their minds over what this means for millions of people. We are talking about a discovery so shocking that emergency dispatchers received over 800 calls in just 12 minutes. 800 calls in 12 minutes, people. And every single one of them reported the exact same horrifying thing. Steam was erupting from cracks that appeared overnight in the streets, in basements, and in parking lots all across the city of Pozzuoli, Italy. But here is where things get absolutely insane. That steam is not random. It is following a specific path, a fault line that plunges 8 kilometers straight down into the belly of the earth, and it leads directly to Mount Vesuvius, the same volcano that buried Pompeii alive. If you think that sounds like the plot of a disaster movie, you are not alone. But this is real life, and it is happening right now. Before we dive deeper into this nightmare scenario, make sure you smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, because trust me, you are going to want to stay updated on this developing situation. This could be the biggest volcanic event in modern human history, and you do not want to miss what comes next. Now let me break down exactly what is happening, because the mainstream media is barely covering this story, and what they are telling you is only scratching the surface. On March 13th, 2025 at 3:42 in the morning, local time a magnitude 4.4 earthquake ripped through the Campi Flegrei caldera. Now 4.4 might not sound like much to you. You might be thinking earthquakes happen all the time, what is the big deal? But here is what makes this one different. This was the most powerful tremor recorded in this region in over 40 years. 40 years of relative calm shattered in an instant. Residents across Pozzuoli jolted awake to violent shaking that sent furniture crashing across rooms and windows exploding into a million pieces. People ran into the streets in their pajamas, absolutely terrified, not knowing what was happening to their city. But the earthquake itself was just the beginning of the horror show. Researchers at Stanford University got their hands on the seismic data and started analyzing it using some seriously advanced techniques. What they found hidden in that data made their blood run cold. There were not just a handful of aftershocks buried in the readings. There were 54,000 micro-tremors hidden within that single earthquake event. 54,000. Conventional seismographs completely missed them. The caldera was not just experiencing a routine earthquake. It was literally tearing itself apart from the inside out, and nobody even knew it was happening until Stanford uncovered the truth. Now I need you to understand something critical about Campi Flegrei, because most people have never even heard of this place, but it might just be the most dangerous volcanic system on the entire planet. The name Campi Flegrei translates to burning fields, and that translation is absolutely appropriate. This is not your typical volcano with a cone shape that you might picture in your mind. This is a caldera, a massive depression in the earth that spans 8 miles across. Underneath it lies a network of magma chambers connecting like a subway system from hell. And this system has been building pressure for thousands of years. Let me put the destructive potential of this thing into perspective for you. 39,000 years ago, Campi Flegrei erupted in what scientists call the Campanian ignimbrite event. This single eruption ejected 200 cubic kilometers of volcanic material into the atmosphere. Imagine a wall of superheated ash and rock traveling at 300 miles per hour across the entire Italian peninsula. This eruption blanketed Eastern Europe in thick layers of debris and caused global climate disruptions that lasted for years. Entire species vanished from the face of the earth. Human populations came terrifyingly close to complete collapse. And that was just one eruption from this monster. 15,000 years ago, it happened again. The Neapolitan Yellowtuff eruption unleashed another 200 cubic kilometers of volcanic fury. This apocalyptic event carved out the very caldera that now lurks beneath one of the most densely populated regions in all of Europe. 3 million people live directly above the scars of these ancient catastrophes. 3 million people going about their daily lives completely unaware that they are sitting on top of a pressure cooker that has already exploded twice with civilization-ending force. Now here is where the March 2025 discovery changes everything we thought we knew about volcanic risk. When that earthquake struck, it did something that geologists believed was physically impossible. It activated the ring faults of Campi Flegrei. These are the circular fracture systems that bound the edges of the caldera, and they have been dormant for centuries. Now they are shattering back to life, releasing bursts of seismic energy that ripple through the surrounding crust in waves. But the real bombshell dropped when researchers traced those seismic ripples to their final destination. The data reveals that the earthquake opened a deep conduit extending 8 kilometers into the earth. This underground pathway is now actively funneling pressure waves from Campi Flegrei's magma chamber directly toward Mount Vesuvius. The same Vesuvius that destroyed Pompeii and Herculaneum in 79 AD. The same Vesuvius that killed 16,000 people in a matter of hours. These two volcanic systems that scientists studied separately for decades are now operating as one unified threat. The seal between them has broken and magmatic pressure is flowing freely through this newly formed corridor. Within 48 hours of the ground rupture, the signs of destabilization became impossible to ignore. Thermal monitoring stations along the newly formed fault line registered temperature spikes of 12 degrees Celsius. Steam emissions from vents that had been silent for decades suddenly roared back to life. Output increased by 340% in less than 2 days. Plumes of vapor visible from Naples shot into the atmosphere, and the chemistry of that steam told scientists something deeply alarming. It was laced with sulfur compounds. This is the telltale signature of deep magmatic gases rising to the surface. The source of these emissions had deepened significantly, which means magma is on the move. Then came the tremors from Vesuvius itself. For the first time since its last eruption in 1944, the infamous volcano began experiencing deep seismic activity. These were not surface vibrations that could be dismissed. These were pressure waves originating from within the magma chamber itself. The mountain that buried Pompeii is waking up, and it is waking up in direct response to what is happening at Campi Flegrei, 8 kilometers away. The two volcanoes are now breathing together. They are sharing pressure. They are operating as a single interconnected system, and nobody alive today has ever witnessed anything like this. Civil protection authorities activated emergency protocols immediately. For the first time in Italian history, both volcanoes are being treated as a unified threat. Monitoring teams are now operating under a terrifying new assumption. Whatever happens to one volcano will directly affect the other. The margin of safety that came from studying these systems separately has completely vanished. Thermal imaging has revealed the most disturbing development of all. The underground pathway connecting these two volcanoes is not stabilizing. It is actively expanding. Steam pressure continues to fracture additional bedrock along the corridor. Seismic activity spikes each time new sections of rock give way. The geological highway between Campi Flegrei and Vesuvius is widening and deepening with each passing day. Scientists are watching their instruments with growing alarm because the connection shows absolutely no signs of slowing down. Now I want you to think about what this means for the 3.5 million people trapped between these two awakening giants. The Naples metropolitan area is one of the most densely populated regions in all of Europe. Italian government evacuation protocols were designed to handle an eruption from either Campi Flegrei or Vesuvius individually. The plans assumed one threat at a time, one evacuation zone, one direction of escape. The March 2025 connection has rendered these assumptions dangerously inadequate practically overnight. In a worst-case scenario where both volcanoes erupt simultaneously, the logistical challenges become almost impossible to overcome. Roads leading away from Campi Flegrei funnel directly toward Vesuvius. Evacuation routes overlap and contradict each other. Traffic models show highways choking with gridlock within hours. Communication systems would collapse under the load of millions of people attempting to flee at once. Emergency services across the entire country would be overwhelmed before they could even begin to respond effectively. The current situation on the ground offers very little comfort to residents. Steam vents are opening daily across Pozzuoli. Roads buckle and crack as the earth shifts beneath them. Buildings show new fractures appearing each morning. The smell of sulfur drifts through neighborhoods as gas seeps up from below. People are living with constant reminders that the pressure underneath their feet continues building towards something catastrophic. But the danger extends far beyond the immediate Naples area. Atmospheric models show that a coordinated eruption from both volcanic systems could blanket much of southern Europe in volcanic ash. Flights would be grounded across the entire Mediterranean region. Respiratory emergencies would surge in cities hundreds of kilometers away. The agricultural lands that feed millions of Europeans face burial under meters of volcanic debris. Crops would be destroyed in hours, and the resulting food crisis would ripple across the entire continent for years to come. Scientists monitoring this unprecedented connection have started using a phrase that sends chills through emergency planning offices across Europe. They are calling this the first domino. The first domino in what could become a cascading sequence of volcanic awakening across the entire Mediterranean basin. You see, the region is home to numerous volcanic systems beyond just Campi Flegrei and Vesuvius. Mount Etna in Sicily, Santorini in the Aegean Sea, Stromboli off the Italian coast, volcanic islands scattered across the Mediterranean floor. All of these systems potentially share connections to the same deep geological networks that have now reactivated beneath southern Italy. Seismic data suggests the magma reservoir feeding Campi Flegrei and Vesuvius extends far beyond their immediate boundaries. If the pressure released from these two volcanoes propagates through interconnected underground systems, it could trigger a chain reaction of eruptions across the entire region. The pressure would seek escape through every available pathway. Such a cascading event would occur on a scale not witnessed since the dawn of human civilization. The last time Mediterranean volcanoes erupted in coordinated sequence, there were no cities, there was no infrastructure, there were no millions of people living in the blast zones. Volcanologists and geophysicists from around the world are now converging on the region, desperately trying to understand the implications of this geological reawakening. But they face a fundamental problem that makes their job incredibly difficult. No modern monitoring system has ever observed volcanic systems reconnecting in real time. The scientific community is operating in completely uncharted territory. The models they built no longer apply. The assumptions they made have crumbled like the fractured rock beneath Pozzuoli. The question has transformed completely. Scientists are no longer debating whether there will be an eruption. The evidence suggests eruption is inevitable at this point. The question now is how far that eruption will spread and whether anything can stop the dominoes from falling once the first one tips over. Every single day brings new data that pushes the situation closer to the edge. New tremors are registered on seismographs. New steam vents are photographed by satellites. New cracks are measured in the streets of Pozzuoli. The monitoring stations record numbers that continue climbing higher and higher. Thermal signatures are growing hotter. Sulfur concentrations are increasing. The physics of what is happening underground follow laws that cannot be negotiated with or delayed. Mother Nature does not care about our schedules or our plans or our hopes that this will all just go away quietly. International response teams are already positioning themselves at staging areas across southern Europe, preparing for the worst. Hospital systems are bracing for mass casualty events. Shipping lanes are drafting contingency routes. Airlines are updating their ash cloud protocols. The machinery of disaster response is grinding into motion, while the ground continues to swell beneath millions of unsuspecting feet. 3.5 million people wait. They watch the streets